Jets Nation, what's going on? Day one of Jets camp officially in the books. I'm heading home from camp right now. I don't know how good this video is going to be completely honest with you guys. I pulled an all-nighter last night. Was way too excited for today, and just seeing the team back on the field, day one of camp. So I did not get any sleep last night. In honor of my boy Mike Maccagnan, drank 5 cups of coffee this morning before I headed out there. And let me just start by saying this. A few observations that I'll get into about the roster, a couple starters that weren't there today, and a few backups that were in there getting some first team reps. But the biggest thing that stood out today, and again, there was so much craziness. Usually it takes like at least 1 or 2 days before you start getting all the numbers down and everything like that, because day one is just like, first you want to see all the stars, right? You want to see Darnold, you want to see Le'Veon Bell, his first time as a Jet. Unfortunately, Quentin Williams isn't there. I'll get into that in a little bit. But, you want to see all the big-time players first. And then, after that, as it starts getting into all the team drills and everything else, then, you start kind of, looking around and, figuring out, oh, undrafted free agent, he just made a catch. Or, just looking at different guys, trying to figure out who the role players are going to be, where the depth is going to come from, and, who's going to shine. Because there's always a couple guys that really nobody expects, and they just kind of come out of nowhere, and, they either secure a roster spot or, at the very least, they're, a guy that, could be a practice squad guy moving forward if he's young enough. So, I enjoy seeing the competition and all that, but the first thing really that stood out to me was just the intensity of practice and the tempo, which was completely different under Todd Bowles. Very relaxed. Nobody was really loud. I think the loudest coach in the Todd Bowles era was probably John Morton, and, he only lasted 1 season. So, I never really felt like there was a sense of urgency in practice, like things were game-like in practice, and that's the biggest difference I see right away with Adam Gase and Greg Williams, where, Gase is talking into the walkie-talkie, Darnold's getting the plays in the headset. You're seeing it wasn't exactly like a hurry-up offense, but you can see they're trying to get the plays in quick, trying to get up to the line and get everything called. So, you like to see the tempo. You like to see that, Gase is trying to mold Darnold into a quarterback that can run a high-tempo offense. That's something you definitely want to see. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I forget who it was. I think maybe somebody on the Browns, maybe it was Freddie Kitchens, I'm not positive, but somebody I think made a comment that was kind of directed at Greg Williams about him being, kind of like a loudmouth kind of coach, not somebody that is an X's and O kind of guy. He's just arrogant, boisterous, whatever it might be. And I couldn't disagree more with that. I know it's only 1 day, but yes, he's loud. Yes, you can hear him from miles away. Yes, he's going to drop plenty of expletives. Yes, he's going to put pressure on you to know what the hell you're supposed to be doing. And if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing, he's going to let you know about it. Okay? But I'll say this. In between every single play, he was coaching these guys up. He was in these players' ears. It didn't matter who it was. He was coaching these guys up. Every single ball that hit the ground, whether it was a drop pass or a potential fumble, there was at least 3 or 4 guys that were pouncing on it on the defensive side of the ball. As players were coming off the sideline and coming into the game, he had specific instructions for everyone that was coming into the game as far as, detailing what your assignment is, breaking down what the play is going to be and the responsibility. I mean, he was attention to detail. Like, you could see it. He's actually coaching these guys every single play. And I'm not saying that Bowles didn't, but he had a different way of doing it where I don't think players felt that kind of pressure in practice to perform. I don't think players felt like their jobs were on the line. Players knew they weren't going to be held accountable for certain things, and I think that's the biggest thing that you could see so far on day one. I don't want to go crazy, it's only day one, but I think as we continue throughout the summer, the intensity is going to pick up, the aggressiveness is going to pick up. It wasn't even contact today, so I think once it starts getting to be full pads and things start getting a little bit more real, it's only going to get hotter and heavier. So I'm excited to see what's going to continue to happen over the next couple of days and into week 2 and 3. But a few other things. A couple starters weren't there today. First guy, Brian Winters, congratulations to him. Wife had a baby. I believe it was today actually that she gave birth. So he was not there today. I think it was Tom Compton who was in there starting at guard, former Vikings guard. Rontez Miles, he got some work as starting safety in place of Marcus May, who's going to be on the PUP list. Hopefully he'll be ready for week 1. I got to be honest, I wasn't too optimistic optimistic listening to Adam Gase talk about that, where, you know, he seemed kind of hesitant to, you know, say if May would be able to play week 1, which kind of tells me this is going to be at least a couple weeks, I would think. I mean, if he plays in the preseason, I would be pretty surprised at this point. I think they're going to play this extra cautious and just make sure they get him back healthy whenever that might be. So Rontez Miles to get some work there. A few other guys, Bronson Kafusi, I saw him getting some first-team reps on the defensive line. Blake Cashman actually got a couple first-team reps. I think it might have been in place of Avery Williamson. I don't know if they're going to look at him maybe as a coverage linebacker. You know, I was having a few conversations last night actually about the Jets linebackers and their coverage ability. And, you know, initially I was kind of disappointed that they traded Darren Lee. You know, I know most people don't like him. I wasn't a fan of his maturity and things like that, but I think he did take a step in year 3 where after you brought in Mosley and you kind of knew he was going to be your third linebacker, a depth guy and a coverage guy, the fact that he was making no money, I would have held on to him for less, you know, unless you could have got more than a 6th round pick. But if it was a culture thing, if it was, you know, players in the locker room realizing that Darren Lee, you know, wasn't a solution going forward, then, you know, I don't have any problem with Gase, you know, cutting bait when he did. So, yeah, Blake Cashman, he got some time there at linebacker. Didn't really notice many of the current draft picks. Obviously, Quinn Williams not there, which is really disappointing. I know somebody commented, I forget who it was, on the page about, you know, all the reports that are going on about how much money Quinn Williams might be losing and who's responsible. Listen, I don't know what the truth is, but I'm just going based off of what's being reported. There are multiple people that are reporting that the Jets are at fault in this, that they're the ones that aren't going to lose any money if, you know, they give Quinn Williams what he's looking for. It's not a matter of the amount, it's a matter of when they're going to pay it. And supposedly they gave Sam Darnold his full bonus. They did give Sam Darnold his full bonus last year. Again, I know it wasn't Joe Douglas who was the general manager at the time, and maybe he's trying to set a different precedent, but for $100,000, to me, again, if that information is accurate, to me, you know, why try to ruffle feathers? Why try to piss off a top 3 pick that is expected to be part of your future moving forward? To me, it's kind of odd. I don't really understand it. But again, if this is them just, you know, trying to, you know, establish a new way of doing things, establish a new culture, I mean, I guess you can't fault them for doing it, because, you know, you want them to be able to do things their way and, you know, set a standard for what things are going to be for this franchise moving forward. But considering, you know, that Sam Darnold just received all of his bonus money up front, and then Quinn Williams is picked, you know, at the same pick, I think it's kind of a difficult stance to take if you're the Jets and if you're Joe Douglas and Adam Gase. So hopefully that gets resolved soon. You know, to me, that was probably like the biggest disappointment of the day, that, you know, we didn't get to see the top pick out there. I don't know what the hell this guy's doing. Sorry about that. Rocks everywhere all over my car. But yeah, a few other things. Sam Darnold, obviously, when you're in shorts and you're not going contact, some things are kind of hard to tell. He did make a few nice connections with Jamison Crowder. Jeff Smith, an undrafted rookie, I believe he's 6'1". He had a couple nice catches today, showed off some impressive speed. Every year you always have a couple guys like that, you know, you look at the number and then you look down at the roster and you're like, who? So, you know, he was one of those guys. And again, I still remember very vividly when that was Robbie Anderson, you know, his very first time out there. You know, the first time he made a catch, I looked down, I'm like, who's Robbie Anderson? And then, you know, suddenly after a few days and a couple weeks, you start hearing his name more and more. And that's the biggest thing, I think, for a lot of these younger guys, a lot of these guys that we're hoping are going to be depth. You got to do it consistently, because anyone could have a good day of practice. Anyone could do it for a day or 2 days. Who's going to be the guys that are doing it day in and day out, that are being consistent with it? That's what I think is going to get a lot of these guys their roster spots, the ones that show that they can do it and do it consistently. So beyond that, I just got to say that I was so fired up when I headed out to camp this morning. For those that don't know, and I know a lot of our followers here on YouTube, many of you guys are new subscribers because we were mostly doing our thing on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. for the first 3 years that we were doing this pod. But for those that don't know, we started this podcast about 4 years ago. Tyson and Joe started it up, and then I started helping out shortly after. And to see where this thing has grown, and not just the podcast, but the magazine, the website, all of it. And to be able to be on the sidelines, and again, this isn't me bragging, this isn't me trying to flex, this is me just damn proud of the team I work with and the work that we put in every single day, because there are plenty of blogs out there, there's plenty of YouTube channels you could subscribe to, there's plenty of different podcasts and websites and Jets content out there. So I personally appreciate all the listens, everyone that interacts in the comments, even if you're ripping me or even if you're ripping Maccagnan. It's special to be able to do this, and I don't say that lightly, because I think everyone in life, if they had a choice, they would choose to do their passion, right? Whatever you're most passionate about, whatever lights you up, you would choose to do that for a career. And so I just think it's very rare that whatever it is that you're most passionate about, that you're actually able to do that thing, and like for me, when I was younger, the big thing was I wanted to play sports. And then suddenly I realized, all right, I'm not growing past 5'7", so what's the next best thing? And that's being on the sidelines and being a part of the action, and being able to report what's going on, try to be an accurate voice of information. And that's just something that was my biggest motivation, I think, for wanting to do it. Being a Jets fan, we had no choice growing up but to read negative articles about this team, right? Because that's all that were written. Every single article, whether it was Cimini or Manish, they were turning things that Rex was doing into, the biggest circus in the world. Even when the team, was coming off the 2 AFC championship games, I just felt like they were always looking for a story. They were always looking to put a negative spin on things. And it's funny because, standing next to them on the sidelines now, it's like, all right, you kind of have a different view of things, a different picture of things. You understand that, these guys actually do have sources, and you understand where they're coming from, but you want to be able to tell the story a little bit differently. You don't always want to have that negative spin on it. You don't want to be a homer, but you don't always have to, doom and gloom every time. So, for me, that's important, because ultimately, being a fan of a team, it should be fun. There's a lot more serious things in life. So, being a fan of a football team and being able to go out there every day and be on the sidelines and cover it, I pinch myself every time I go out there, because it doesn't seem real. The first day I did it 4 years ago, I still remember it very vividly, because that was my first time ever, on a sideline for 26 years. Every time I went to camp, and I went every single year, whether it was Hofstra and the two-a-days back in the day, or, once they started going to Florham Park, every single year I was there multiple times, and, I would always just hang out with all the other fans and, just watch practice. And then the very first day, I remember it so clearly, the very first day that, I was fortunate enough to be on the field. Tyson, I think I actually had your press pass that day, because I was kind of just starting up and everything with the podcast and the website. And it was incredible. It was surreal. And, to still be doing that now 4 years later, you would think like some of that aura would wear off a little bit, but it doesn't. Going there today felt just as amazing as it did the very first time I got to do it. I'm sure going there in 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, it's going to feel the same thing. I never get tired of it. I never get bored of it, no matter, if it's 90 degrees, 100 degrees, whatever. It's just such an honor, such a privilege to be on that sideline and, to try at least to give a voice about what's going on in the team. I do try to follow every single thing that goes on. We have multiple social media pages that we try to keep active at all times. So that's why I do these YouTube videos when I'm in the car. And then, when I get home, I settle in on the Instagram page. Tyson's rocking the Twitter page. Joe's rocking the Facebook page. So, we just try to keep you guys updated and informed. I got plenty of videos that I'm going to try and upload on the YouTube page as soon as I get home. Right now, I'm driving on the Parkway, so it's going to be a little bit. But, yeah, definitely stay tuned. I'll be at camp again tomorrow, day 2. So stay tuned and talk to you guys soon. Go Jets.